Where do I start? There, starting with film I made the transition a little late into 2006, switching to digital, and I felt like I was selling my kids when I unloaded my Hasselblads, my
Mm.
Nikons, my Sinars. I donated my Sinars to the local community college because nobody was buying them back then. And so that transition to digital was a wake-up call. Fortunately, I had studio managers that handled all the post-production because I didn't have a clue.
Right.
So I started learning from them, uh, and that was a gradual change. 2010, I closed the studio, and one of my assistants, Ray Asuna, was just he was amazing. He still is an amazing person. He continued to work with me doing post production work for a while until I learned how to do it myself. I decided it was time to grow up and be a big boy, so I had to
Mm.
learn to do it. And when I moved up
Suck it
here,
up and do it, right?
yep. There's a gentleman who has a company called Digital Darkroom, and his name is Mark Fitzgerald. He's a member of our chapter of ASMP and
Okay.
also PPFA Oregon. And he was a huge, tremendous help with me with his seminars. And he also does individual training sessions. And that was a big help with me getting into Photoshop and Lightroom. That was
Mm,
my job, and I've never looked back. It's just one of those things where, except to thank him. Um,
right.
And he didn't pay me to say that, okay?
It's not a paid endorsement.
No. But, no, it's amazing the changes. I was sad to see them going towards in one way, towards, monetizing it the way they have, where you have to buy a subscription now instead of
Mm,
being able to own it. That was a huge hit, and it's expensive, but the updates that they have constantly, are a huge help for the most part. I've really enjoyed, especially with Lightroom and, again, Photoshop, all the updates. Um, the changes in the computer industry, one of the worst ones was Napster, way back. I guess it was
mm,
what, 25, 30 years ago. Sharing images.
right.
What is intellectual property? It's
Yeah.
no, go ahead, you can have it. No, you can't. And there's another thing called the orphan work, which ASMP was huge in combating and working internationally with other organizations.
Mhm,
You can't find the creator of the image. Who has access to it? You do until you're caught. And it's
right.
one of those things, the only people that win are the attorneys unless you were able to work it out between you. And when they strip metadata, which unfortunately most uh, social networking groups do, they strip the
Mhm,
majority of the metadata. So there's, in a lot of cases, you can't find out who the creator of the image was. Registering your work, we can talk about that later, but that's important. But the registration process has evolved where it's so much easier in a lot of ways and it became a little more difficult. But the US Copyright Office, I highly recommend registering your work if you haven't. And there was a period of time where I, from 2010 to 2013, we had a lot of family issues. My wife developed lung cancer during that time.
so sorry.
And between that and the move, she survived and she came through. She's a champ.
Wow.
She came through that, but I failed to register my work. I was just trying to go through that and other things that we were dealing with at the time. And I found out through Tom Madry, our general counsel, yes, you can register it later on. So I went ahead and re-registered some of the work or registered it. And it's a huge help having people like that. ASMP has a general counsel. If you're a member, you have access to that person, along with just a broad range of information that we've developed over the past, uh, I would say, since 1944, but primarily from I would say, 80s and on. I became
Mhm,
my background, part of it was, you're asking about mentors. I've had several. Morton Beebe was one of my mentors when I became a board member of the ASMP NorCal chapter, which is now, I think, ASMP San Francisco. And he was our chairperson at the time, and he just gave me so much advice on copyright, intellectual property, and I
mm.
owe him an awful lot. He's got quite a story. But I know I'm getting into the weeds again. It's a bad habit of mine. Squirrel. Okay, so anyhow, uh, it's just one of those things where you learn from your colleagues, you learn from people that you
Mhm,
work with, and especially when you're within these trade associations, if you get involved with them, you can't help but learn. I found when we had our board meetings or retreats, you learn so much about the industry, but also about equipment because you're more
Right.
on a one-to-one basis. It's invaluable having those experiences.